Hello everybody, Joe here with Garden of Bloom. I wanted to do just a quick backyard tour. It is the third week of August 2021. I'm in the Phoenix, Arizona area growing zone 9B. It's a desert climate, so as you would imagine, we get really extreme heat in the summertime. This summer's been kind of interesting. It's been a little bit more humid more consistently throughout the summer. That for us, humid is like 30 to 40% humidity. We've had a lot of monsoon action this year, a lot of extremely high winds, which has done some damage to a lot of areas around here. But overall, the trees are looking pretty good. This is one of my canistel seedlings you can see here in the ground. I have 3 of them in total, doing well. Next to it is my Tikal Sapodilla. And as you can see, it's doing pretty nice. The winds have kind of thrashed this guy. It's kind of all over the place, sideways. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way to stake it back up again. It's flowered a lot, but I'm not seeing any fruit on it. I had one fruit that matured on it a couple years ago, but other than that, it hasn't really held any fruit. I've had a couple here and there that ended up dropping off, so unfortunately it hasn't been very productive. My Bradenton Loquat tree here, it's gotten really large, doing pretty well here. Not a whole lot of burn or anything on it. Had a really good crop this year. Here is my Silas Wood Sapodilla. This one's growing in a container. And same thing, it flowers a lot, but I've never had a fruit off of this tree. I had one fruit set last year that I thought might make it, but it dropped off, unfortunately. Thought with more of the humidity, these would set some fruit, but I'm not really seeing anything. Back behind it, it's kind of tough to see, is my Indonesian seedless guava. It's completely leaning over here, so I'm gonna have to stake it up again. I had it staked, but the wind just blew it over. No fruit on that as well. It is in quite a bit of shade, so it wants more sun than it's getting. I had it growing in a container for a few years and did get a couple fruits on it. I could not stand the taste of the fruit though, so I ended up just kind of throwing it back in this spot here. It was a little more sensitive than some of my other guavas to our extreme sun here, so I just put it back here. And I wasn't sure if I'd even like the fruit at all. Again, after the ones I had tasted, I thought maybe it might be better in the ground, but it hasn't fruited at all since it's been in the ground. Here's a seedling loquat from the tree that I have. All my blackberries back in here. Rosboro variety. It is a thorny variety, which is kind of rough to get into. I don't really prune it because of that, so all the dead growth you kind of see in there just kind of mingled in with the new growth and stuff because it's just so thorny and hard to prune that out of there. Here is my Subel white sapote, which is filled out a lot over the last year or so, and it does have one fruit on it. Let's see if I can find it. It's down here. There it is. So I'll get to taste this for the first time this year. My red hybrid jabuticaba looks beautiful. I'm really loving this tree here. It's been a really slow grower. This one's been grown from seed, but I think it's about 3 years old now, if I remember correctly. So it's getting there. Getting to a stage where it'll eventually fruit. This fruit's earlier than the blue standard variety, so hopefully maybe in a year or two. This is my wax jambu here, and it is in an area where it gets probably a little bit more sun than it wants, but overall still doing well. You can see a little bit of burn, but then it's pushing out some new growth here. It's got this maroonish color foliage on the new growth. My large early grand peach tree that I try to aggressively prune, but it just wants to get big here. So had a ton of peaches. I highly recommend peach tree for Phoenix. If you don't have one, that's one you really should get. I have a Sprite Delight cherry plum that's tough to see because it's amongst all these other trees. And for that reason, I'm thinking that this winter I may just cut this out of here. It's been moderately productive, but the fruit kind of struggles to ripen with a lack of sunlight. This was not a good spot for this to be planted. Really, these stone fruits can handle a lot of sun and want a lot of sun, even though with our extreme heat, we want to put things in like a semi-shaded spot. But peaches, plums, things like that, you really want to get them quite a bit of sun, and they can handle it. Okay, let me move around here. Here's my other canistil, or one of my others. You can see how large this has got, and this one's in the container. So definitely our high pH clay soil affects the growth of these trees, because this one is not in the ground, and it's like triple, quadruple the size of mine two that are in the ground. So the soil definitely makes a difference. Here is my Caracara Navel Orange. Come around here. Sorry, I got the sun glare on some of this. And this is fruiting for the first time. Planted this initially when we moved into the property December 2016, so that gives you an idea of the age. And I have 6 oranges, I believe, on it for the first time. And again, it's not in the best of spots due to all the foliage growing around it. Here's my Meyer lemon that's getting overrun by my watermelon plant here. And it just scraggly, kind of struggles. So I'm not sure. I might just get rid of this. I'm kind of getting sick of this guy. So it does have a few lemons on it. It has produced. Back behind that is my African Pride Adamoya, which has gotten large, which it usually does. Kind of overrunning my garden box back there. And again, this has flowered a lot, but never produced any fruit. I try to hand pollinate it and do a lot of different things, but I cannot get fruit set on this. And I'll talk to you about some of my other nonas as we move along the yard here, some of the challenges there. But they grow really, really well here, as you can see. And I prune this aggressively after winter. The frost kind of takes it back a bit as well. But other than that, I mean, it just grows all year round here in the summer, even in the heat. Back behind it, this massive tree here is my Sherwood Jujube. And again, I hack this down a lot just before spring when it's dormant. And it just fills right back out. It's probably 15 feet at least. Fruiting pretty good this year. The winds have blown a lot of it off, but it's done pretty well. Here you can see my Parfianca pomegranate is like going horizontal because of the winds. I'm growing this more as a bush, but you can see just all the branches just completely leaning over. And I don't know what to do with this. We'll see what happens when it goes dormant in the winter, where I need to prune and how I need to adjust, but just kind of leaving it for now. You can see a watermelon there. I've had a really good crop of watermelon this year. It's kind of finishing up now, but tomatoes, I had a great crop. You can see they're all dead now. Just kind of left it in there because the watermelon vines have kind of climbed through there. So once I'm done with the watermelons, I'll clean all this up and plant for fall. Here is my Tango Mandarin, which has grown a lot and doing really well. Has 2 mandarins on it. And this is the last fruit tree that I've purchased and planted. I planted this February of 2020 to give you an idea of the age. My Barbie pink guava here. Really nice looking, full of fruits. Let me see if I can come up here. You can see some there. We're in the heart of guava season right now in August. They've been ripening like crazy. And as you can see, this is a 30-gallon container. Guavas do really, really well in containers here too. I prune this back and keep it about this size here. I'm not going to go back in there, but there's my Barbados cherry. Doing really good back in the corner there. That gets all the afternoon sun. That's a really hot spot, south facing corner. And I've been disappointed because I have had really a lack of fruit set on this tree for a while. Not really sure what the deal is, but once in a while I'll get a cherry or two, but it's not been very productive for me. My dwarf everbearing mulberry, which has gotten really, really large as usual, and I'll prune it back in the winter. I prune it back a few times throughout the year after harvest. Really productive tree, another one that you definitely should consider for Phoenix. There is my Peruvian white guava. And this is my favorite of my guavas as far as flavor. Let's see, the guavas, they can get pretty large. But overall, I'm just not a huge fan of guavas, with that being said. They do great here, though. I mean, they're the one tropical that really, really produces heavily. Once they're established and a bit older and larger, you don't really have to worry too much about cold protection as well. It will get hit from frost. You may lose like maybe a third of the tree, but then it just bounces back. I pruned this aggressively. Like, the frost didn't really get to it this past year because our winter didn't really get quite as cold as a couple years ago. But it just fills right out. They grow great here with pretty minimal care. They do like heavy nitrogen for food, but you can go with pretty minimal care and it'll still flourish. My Jamaican cherry here, kind of wedged back in here. The sun's beaming there, so let me see if I can come around and get an angle on it. There you can kind of see. And I've had this in a container for several years, and I just aggressively prune it, and it just fills right back out. Fruits quite a bit for being in a container. If you can see any. Here is my other African Pride Ademoya seedling. And this one I have in a container. I put one in the ground and one in a container just because I was able to move this and keep it more protected. I wasn't sure how they would do in the cold. But now I've just left this out year round. It's by the side of my house here, so I think the wall kind of helps it as well, but doesn't really get bothered by the cold at all. But again, I try to pollinate this. I have had some fruit set on this one a couple years ago. This year I didn't have any. And they just all end up tending to drop off. All right, here is one of my mango trees. This is an Ida Maraca grown from seed, and it looks great this year. The humidity's really helped, and the rain. It's just really green this year, really filled out. And this was started in 2016, 2015, to give you an idea of the age. It flowered for the first time last year. I had fruit for the first time. Really, really, really tiny mango. They grow in like clusters. I mean, they look like grape clusters. But they are fiberless, really nice tasting. This year it didn't flower, so I don't know if it's still because of the age or something else. Not really sure why. Hopefully I'll get a crop next year. This has way outperformed any of my grafted mangoes. This seed grown. All right, moving here. I have 4 fig trees up here, all in containers. Black Mission, which has been extremely productive this year. You can see some of the later crop that's coming on here now. I've had a wonderful crop of figs this year. They've been all really productive. This is my Violet de Bordeaux. And I have lemongrass kind of back behind it growing in all of this, but I also have a Peter's Honey. And you can see all the figs still coming on here. And then a Canandria, which is just starting to fruit again. But that was really loaded early on. That was my earliest producer. And again, they're all in containers to keep them manageable because I'm just out of space. And it's been perfect for me. About 4 fig trees have produced a ton of figs, plenty for me and my family. So it's worked really well for me. Here are my other mango trees. My kit that you can kind of see wedged into the sugar apple. I'll come around and show you that in a minute. My Cary mango that's growing in a container. And then my Gary here. Still see some mangoes on it. And I think you can see that kit back there. It's been really, really late for mangoes this year. I mean, it's late August and I still haven't even really harvested very many mangoes. So not sure why, but that's how it's worked out this year. I've had 1 kit, 1 Cary, and 1 Gary so far this year. And then I think I had a total of 4 Garys, 3 Carys, and 5 kits. So kind of a small crop as well this year. Let me come around. Okay, so I'm on the back side of my sugar apple, and I just wanted to talk to you about this for a minute as I was talking about Anonas earlier. And again, this thing has gotten just massive in the container, as usual. I prune it aggressively. So I pruned it, it's probably doubled in size this year. And this does have fruit set on it. Let's see if I can show you one. There's one. There was 3 total that I could see. There might be a couple more in there. But they all tend to just eventually turn black and not fully mature. So I'm not sure what the issue is. I don't know if it's our lack of humidity here or something else, just the extreme heat. But I've never had any Annona fruit to maturity, even though I've had some fruit set. And they have gotten larger this year than they have in the past. But still, the one I had already turned black and ended up dropping, and it wasn't fully mature, didn't ripen. So one of the challenges with Annona is just getting fruit production in general. But as you can see, they really love the climate here as far as just growth. And again, this one's in a container. It is a little bit more cold sensitive. I may try just to leave it out all winter this year unprotected and see what happens. Because if they're not going to be very productive, I'm not really wanting to go out of my way to take extra measures to baby it through the winter and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see what happens, what I end up doing. But I did move this in with my mangoes, and it's grown so much it's like overrunning my kit mango back there, so I don't really like that. So I'm gonna have to find another spot. But it did get more sun than normal here, and it seemed to take it fine. There's a little burn here and there, but not much. Okay, lastly, here's my last Canistil seedling. This one's in the ground. And this bougainvillea blew over on top of it, so it kind of beat it up a little bit. But it is larger than my other one. It's probably about 4 foot tall now. Got a little sun scorch. These are pretty sensitive to our sun, so you want more of a shady spot for them. Give them that early morning sun or dappled sun throughout the day is going to be really good for them. All right, check me out at gardenofluma.com for more tips on gardening and growing fruit trees, especially in hot, dry climates. Thanks for watching.